Now, the narrative begins with an innocent black youth coming back from studies where he was going to be the next Albert Einstein, no doubt, in the university, studying in the lab, and walking down the street peacefully when an evil Ku Klux Klan officer dressed in his police uniform comes up and tells him to stop. And the poor innocent young man, with his mind on the heavens and his future as a medical doctor, perhaps even I would think a surgeon, God only knows, is stunned by the officer's commands, and he puts his hands up, and the Ku Klux Klan officer in a police uniform guns him down in cold blood. That's what Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and all a bunch of them would have you believe. That's the narrative. But let's have the real narrative. You can see it on videotape. See a little Indian shopkeeper, an immigrant, who wasn't on welfare, not sitting around in his fat behind doing nothing his whole life. He came over from India and saved his money and opened a little grocery store in the neighborhood. And this group of bums comes in and roughs him up, throws him around like a rag doll, steals cigars or whatever else, and walks out. The guy calls 911. Have you heard that anywhere? Did you know there was a 911 bulletin out for someone who looked like Michael Brown? So the cop is now driving around. And the cop, Wilson, tells the grand jury he sees Brown and a friend, Dorian Johnson, walking in the street. Police officer said he told him to move to the sidewalk, which drew a curse from Brown. Then Wilson noticed that Brown had a handful of cigars, quote, and that's when it clicked for him that the men were suspects in a theft at a convenience store reported just minutes earlier. So the cop, Wilson, calls for backup before maneuvering his vehicle in front of Brown and his friend. Wilson, who was much smaller than the 6'4", 290-pound Brown, are you ready? Says he was in fear for his life as Brown slammed his squad car door on him and pummeled him through the window, punched him in the face through the window. A few minutes after Wilson confronted him walking in the middle of the street. He said he felt like a 5-year-old holding on to Hulk Hogan. Now, let's pause right there. You've got a lot of fools in the media saying, well, he's 6'2" and he's 220 pounds. Mr. Brown was only 6'4" and 290 pounds. See, I'm a fan of boxing. If a man is 5 pounds heavier than the other man, he is usually in a different weight class. Now, you think 290 and 240 is the same, then you know nothing about physicality. And I'll tell you something else that most of you idiots don't know. If you put a head against the hard surface, you can kill the man. You know what that means? Take a fist, take a head, and find a hard surface, and you can kill that person.